I think Rich said something about Lab Zero being optional, and that kind of enticed people to not come, even though it was on, like I did it on Zoom on Monday too. So I'm glad people are here. I guess let me start off by telling you who I am. Let me screen share, which, I mean, doing it over Zoom is actually quite easy for me, just because most of what I wanted to do is screen sharing anyway. Okay, let me get these meeting controls out of here. Okay. So I went to college in Pennsylvania, a really small school. You probably don't know it, but I did like some kind of atomic physics there. So like controlling quantum systems with like different tuning parameters, and I did a bunch of computer simulation. And then through these like NSF REU programs in college, I did them at other universities. I started to get more into like theoretical stuff like math and black holes and some condensed matter theory. And then when I was in the Netherlands last year, between my bachelor and doing this, I did like much more formal math stuff. So like gravity and algebras and geometry and stuff. And then now while I'm at Stony Brook, I'm kind of more interested in like metals and how electrons interact and stuff. And I definitely want to be a professor, so I love this job, like being a TA and stuff. Like I love helping people with like understanding physics and stuff, and just in general, like helping people, you know, get further into physics and stuff like that. Okay, and I'll obviously get to know all of you over the course of the semester. Let me just briefly touch on the calendar. So let's see, we are Wednesday labs. So obviously today you don't have to do anything, just, you know, be here or, you know, listen to the recording. Next Wednesday, you'll have the first pre-lab quiz. So I think I set the deadlines on the pre-lab quizzes to 30 minutes before class. So you can do them a week beforehand, or you can do them the day of. And that's just, you read through the lab manual, right? You go through to Rich's awesome lab website, go down to the week, you know, whatever lab we're doing that week, and you click on the lab manual and read through it. This is kind of like the theory of it. And if you're looking at this and electricity and magnetism scares the crap out of you, I'm right there with you. I haven't done it in a very long time. So that drawing scares me too. Yeah, so just read that, and then the lab quiz is kind of like ideally they're like things that people mess up on a lot. So answering them will help you not mess up. Back to the calendar. So that is like the special Wednesday, and then every Wednesday after that, you have the lab due from the last week, and then the pre-lab quiz for the lab that's happening. So probably exactly how you did it with 133. Yeah, so your first lab would be like, we do the first lab on the 10th, and then the lab report is due on the 17th. And then let's see here. And one thing you'll notice in Rich's calendar here, there are a ton of makeup weeks. So 3 makeup weeks scheduled throughout the thing, which is like to say that like if you have any like cough, sore throat, you just feel like crap, just skip. Like there's no reason to force yourself to come to these, because like there's so many makeup labs. So if you're feeling crappy, just like get another COVID test or whatever, and just don't risk it, because like we were pretty successful last year with 133, so keeping that track record good would be good. So if you notice in assignments, when you click on lab reports, there's like this kind of super brief rubric, and I extended that a bunch last semester, just to make it more clear to everyone, like what I'm looking for. So obviously, like in 133, you upload your Google Sheet as an Excel type file. Like these are like Excel type files, so that I can like click on the cells, and if you have like some kind of weird formula that doesn't make sense, I can you know look at it and be like, okay, this is why that's wrong. Um, and then your report as a PDF. You can submit it as a Word, but I would prefer not, because there was a lot of weird formatting last year when people would submit it as a Word. It just makes it much easier for me to use a PDF. And you can totally like use Word and then export it as a PDF, or use like websites like that. Um, but there is this really nice, and I'll get to this example over here. It makes things very um, nice, and it makes things formatted very well when you're writing in science, to write things in this program called LaTeX. Um, if you have any like desire to do research type stuff, or like maybe do grad school in a science field or a math field, or probably a ton of things, like anything except like, I don't know, writing a book. Even you can write a book in like type two, but it's just for math equations like this. It makes things much nicer. There's like huge formatting, and it'll make your lab report much longer because of the giant spaces and stuff. But it's also much easier for me to grade when like things are separated like that, and you can reference equations so that you can call back to it later. It makes putting in figures like this super easy. Like instead of like copying and pasting and um, weird stuff like that. What other stuff can you do? You can put tables in, your figures from the plotting tool, and like call back to references like this. So let's get back to the rubric. I am probably scaring you with that enormous lab report. Yeah, it was really hard for me to give like an example of a like perfect lab report, because at first I was like, all right, I should pick someone who um, got like a 90, because then it wouldn't be like, because this is way too much. Like it's an insanely long lab report, and they got, I don't know, like they did LaTeX and they made their own figure. I'll get to that later in the rubric. So they got, I think, and there was nothing wrong. Like I took off no points for this, so they got like 110 on that report. So yeah, it's just hard, because if I showed you an example of a 90, like I wouldn't have enough time to show you what was wrong, or whatever. Um, so yeah, definitely make sure you're citing things in every lab report, like Rich's lab manual. That's something he wrote. The error analysis PDF is something either he or, I don't know, maybe a TA or something wrote. The Google Sheet and plotting tool, like these are tools that you're using to do this, and citing things like that. That's just, you can. I don't have any preference on how you cite it, just that you do. And then like let's find an example like this. Like you do like, we used equation 4 from that reference, and then down at the bottom, it's like, that's what that reference is. So the title page, it's weird that like this is so much points. I mean, in the grand scheme, it's not that much, but the reason for that is because of this abstract. That's something that I think is missing from a lot of lab reports, and it's like a huge part of like pretty much any science article. An example, like, and this obviously was typed up in LaTeX as well. Like pretty much every single science article that you find on like any kind of like archive depository of like science articles has like um, an abstract. And an abstract is basically like um, a brief sentence, and this is just an example I wrote for like the pendulum lab from 133. You say something basic about the system that you're studying, why you're studying it, like you're determining the acceleration due to gravity, and then all the things that you do during the lab, like you um, determine the dependence of the period on the length, and all sorts of other things. And also, a big part of the this class is error and propagating error and stuff like that. So that's why the title page, like obviously everyone can do that, but the abstract is like a super nice thing. And also this rubric, I put it in the lab document, no, the course documents. So you can find it, but just by clicking on course documents, and you can find it there if I'm going too fast or something. Intro is like basically in your own words what the background section of the lab is. So it's basically any kind of equation or the theoretical background of physics that we're using in the lab. Like, we're probably, I haven't read this lab yet, but we're probably going to be verifying that equation. And like how we do that, that goes in the intro. And then the apparatus. So this is again an like huge figure, and they got like the maximum amount of extra credit for that. But again, like I think if especially a lot of you are pre-engineering, making your own figures in things like Inkscape or Sketchpad is like a really awesome thing to have on your resume. And like going into I make figures all the time for like whenever I'm doing any kind of research capacity type stuff. It's like a super awesome skill to have. And again, this is extra credit, so you can totally get 100 by just, I don't know. One thing that some people did last semester was like take a picture of their lab setup and then like open it in a PDF viewer and draw little lines and boxes about like, okay, this is this part and this is that part, like basically this, but like on a real picture. And then of course, like below it, describing how, like what moves, what doesn't, how you're measuring stuff and collecting data. Procedure is basically like what you're doing physically, like the steps that you take, very similar to the procedure here, just like, I guess one thing that people ran into when they found it very hard to not copy and paste. Envision like your lab report, like what do you wish that you'd read before you did this lab? Like maybe like you read this and took the pre-lab quiz and were completely confused about something, and then like you got into lab and you were like, oh, that's how that works. That is what you should be, focusing on in your procedure and stuff like that. The results discussion or analysis, that's like the biggest part. So it's, your data, like the things that you collect is data, and then calculations are like when you take your data and bring it to like an indirect quantity, like if you remember like when we would drop something and it would be in segments per second, right? Like that's data. And then, so yeah, segments per second would be data, and then like meters per second would be like something that you calculated. And definitely like your error analysis, like all the like equations like this from your error analysis PDF, which you can find probably at the bottom of every single, I guess not that one. Usually at the bottom of every single lab, there's a link that goes to it. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, so I mean, basically, this is a huge document, and if you're interested in it, it's a huge field, like error and statistics and all that type of stuff. But basically, we just use 2, 3, 4. Relative uncertainty we use like once in 133, and then like 6, 7 through all that stuff. So yeah, that's basically like pages up to 9 is pretty much where you can stop. I don't think we used any of that. Yeah, this is more like the theory. Where did these formula come from? And there are some really nice textbooks on that. You probably used in other classes and stuff. And then one thing that I found was much easier to do grading wise was to put the discussion questions in the lab report. I found it was an easier way to give people a boost, like in their grade, because usually, like what I'll do is I'll assign the discussion questions during lab, like in the middle, and then I'll like write them on the board. Like for instance, I'll say like, okay, this week, like that's a really annoying question. There are only 3 of them. Answer the yeah. So I would, for instance, I would like pick this one and that one, and then I would like write those 2 names on the board, and then like you would look at them and read them and think like, oh, can I come up with an answer for that? And if you can't, like we talk about it like during the lab, and usually I'm like very bad at. I mean, I'm getting better at it, like not giving the answer immediately, like asking you a question and stuff. But I have to work on that. But yeah, so that's usually like a grade boost. Like we talk about it, and then you just write up what we talked about in your own words, and like usually you'll have some insights that I didn't think about. That happened a lot. And the conclusion is basically just the abstract reworded. Like let's look at this person's conclusion and compare it to the abstract. Right, the objectives, like what were the, like why did we do this lab? Like usually it's verifying some kind of physical equation, and did you succeed in doing that, and like what did you do to do that? It looks like here they're explaining why their data didn't match up exactly. That's a very long conclusion. I would, yeah, the conclusion should probably just be 1 paragraph. Like like even this abstract is kind of long. Like the abstract should maybe be like 4 to 7 sentences. So I guess this is on the high side. And then the conclusion should be, I don't know, like a paragraph, maybe 8 sentences or something like that. Yeah. Okay, what was next? Okay, yeah, one thing I forgot about the calendar. Between all these things, I will be usually like on a Friday, or I don't know, maybe a Thursday or something. I'll send out like an announcement with like a doodle poll or a Google poll, I guess, and like ask you like what the best time for you is over the weekend, and then whatever everyone selects the most, I'll like hold an hour or 2 hours. I don't remember what I did last year, but it's like an hour or 2 of, I think it was 2 hours. So like 2 hours of office hours over the weekend, so that you can come in and like, I mean, if something goes wrong during lab, definitely like raise your hand and call me or one of the undergrad TAs over sooner, so that like you can get your data and your data is good when you leave. And then like we don't have to like talk about it during office hours. Office hours is usually like you don't know how to interpret your data, or you're struggling with, I mean, anything in the rubric. Like you can pretty much come to office hours for anything. I'm just thinking of like the most common ones. Yeah, like looking at the background and you don't understand like the theoretical physics of what's going on. That's definitely a good one. Maybe if an abstract is something new to you, you can like run it by me. Let's see. Yeah, this is basically the bulk of what I did office hours. Like people would like, they didn't understand their data, or like they didn't know what to do with it. Like they collected everything correctly. Let's see, I think I have a chat. I guess it's just like common practice. I gave like an example here where it's like this is like a multi-author science article, and like this is like a single author science article, and like you still use we. It's a weird thing in science where like, and this is like through all disciplines like math, bio, physics. Like even a single author is we. It's a weird thing, but it's. I'm not going to take off points for it, but like it's a good habit to get into. Just like I think it's like acknowledging that like science is like a collective progression of like ideas, and like humanity just slowly building on our knowledge and stuff. But yeah, I'm not going to take off points if you say I. What times will you typically have office hours in these days? Is it oh, definitely through Zoom. The only thing in person is the actual labs. That's why I emailed Rich last night, like, hey, can I do this over Zoom? Because obviously this is much more conducive to what I wanted to do, like screen share. Yeah, so office hours are definitely over Zoom. What times do you typically? It's really whatever everyone's into. Like I send out like a giant, I think it's like, I probably have it, office hours. I just send out like a giant form like this, like what time works for you. And then like the results come in and it's like, okay, 10 people want to do 1 to 2. You still offer points for typing? Yeah, totally. Do you still offer points to type in? Yeah. So I'll go over that briefly now. Thank you, Lewis. I forgot to. Uh, um, I'll upload this to Blackboard after we're done as well. But I came up with this on my Monday when people were like, I had a few people that were like, I actually want to learn LaTeX stuff. Actually, let me show you a more impressive example first. Um, just like highlighting all the things you can do. This Jason guy is pretty cool. Nice. Um, let's see. Yeah, so like there's like a huge, for some reason, when you compile things, like this is your like what the document looks like, I guess like under the hood or whatever, like this is a math equation, surprisingly. Um, but then like when you view it as a PDF, it looks kind of weird when you're like natively. If you click this and download it, it looks much better. So let me do that real quick. Table of contents is always like an easy thing in LaTeX. Like I did like this whole, all of this is 3 letters in LaTeX. I just typed like /TOC for table of contents and it builds everything on your own. Let me see some like figures and stuff. Yeah, so like figures and stuff like that are, you can include super easily. And here, like, here's an example of like math stuff. Just much easier to like, if you, I can't imagine how people do that in Word. Apparently, like some people did do it last year. I have no idea how you do that. So more power to you if you really don't want to use LaTeX. Yeah, but you can definitely do still of course do extra credit if you want. And let me go back to this. Can you drink chocolate milk in lab? I mean, I guess. I mean, I guess people like, they would like take their mask down and like, I don't know if this was like a like rhetorical question or if it's like a real question. But like drinking and eating, like I guess like people didn't eat, like no one ate just because that's like a longer activity with your mask down. So like don't do that. Um, but like I saw like a few people just like take a drink of water and then put their mask back on, like not even take it off basically. Um, so yeah, I guess you can drink, and you can also just like leave to go to the bathroom if you like really want to eat something. Um, yeah, but yeah, it's the same process as like 133. Like things are like separated, right? So like like there's like a partition in between the people, and like one person does the thing and one person uses the computer. If you have like questions or anything, just call like me or the undergrad TAs over first. Like don't like I saw a lot of this and I wasn't very good about like enforcing it last semester, but like I mean I guess the numbers are going down, but like they were pretty bad a few weeks ago. Like people would like not understand something on the computer or like on the other side, like they would not understand how the equipment was working, and then the other partner would go over and like help them with it. Try not to do that at first. I guess, yeah, I guess at first, like if it's been like, I mean, usually it wouldn't, like I pretty much rotate both classrooms like every 5 minutes. Yeah, but just ask like the undergrad TAs or me, because like I'm pretty good at like um, directing from a distance. Like I barely touched anyone's stuff. Obviously, like you have to touch like the experiment sometimes. Like people don't know how to do it. But usually, like on a computer, I can like talk to you and do it. Let me go to that LaTeX thing. Is regular milk okay too? I don't know. I think that one's a joke. Very bare bones LaTeX example. Okay, so here's just some examples of stuff you can do. Yeah, stuff. Again, this table of contents thing. So under the hood, that just looks like, and this is just like, so again, I'm gonna copy this whole folder so that you can just like, I don't know, 8 years ago when I started using LaTeX, someone did the same thing to me, and I took everything before begin document and I copied and pasted it into mine. Like these are all, that's something from my thesis. Like these are things that make the figures float in the middle of the page, captions, all types of like math fonts, a bunch of shit that I don't know what it is, and just like documenting the article. Yeah, so I guess it wasn't 3 letters, it was 3 words, table of contents. And then sections, they kind of like break things up into sections like that. So like, introduction, experimental apparatus, English words. If you do something like inline, it's just like with cache symbols, like that. But I would definitely use that very sparsely, because at that point, it's not really any better than Word. It's just like mashed in between like English. Having things on its own is much nicer like this. So you can use, if you don't want it numbered, you can use like these 2 cache symbols, or which is preferred, like you want to like reference your equation later in the lab, you can do like equation, and then it references it. And here you can use this, which is like an equation array, where you can line up the equal signs with these and symbols. This is like a new line. This is like a fraction. And so you can make like a huge equation like this. Like for instance, this was I think maybe it was a discussion question. I think so. It was deriving conservation of energy, and that was one of the ones I asked. You can make tables. So like this table probably looks like it's just copied and pasted, but it actually is written in code. Yeah, it looks like that. Figures. Yeah, so all this equation array stuff, you can also just type in like completely different equations. And then including a figure is you just upload something. I chose to upload this figure here. And then in the document, I've got something that looks like that, figure. I'm centering the figure. I'm including the file. I don't really know what that does. And then you're like giving the figure a caption with like citations. So this like citation feature, like this, you can cite the figure. So if you click on it, it brings you to the figure you're talking about. Or like you can click on the citation and you're like, oh, it's from that article or whatever. Yeah, so I'll as soon as this is over, I'll just upload that to Blackboard so that you can use it or whatever. So I think that's pretty much all I had to say. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how citations are done. An example, I just do like name of the author, title, where it was published, like the journal or whatever. the year. But another example would just be like one, like you put like a little, like how they had like the one here, and then like Rich Lefferts, his electric field plotting, and then like a hyperlink to the lab. Obviously, you don't have to hyperlink it. It's just a good um, practice. Like if you were actually doing a science article, you would want to hyperlink it. Um, but like I know where you got it. But yeah, I don't care what citation formula. Yeah, if you can totally, you don't have to write in LaTeX. It's just an option. Like you can, you know, if you have the desire to go in like further in science, I would recommend it. But you don't like you can totally get a 100 by not doing that. Yeah, yeah. The format of the that example is pretty. Like the example follows the rubric pretty well. So yeah, following the rubric is right on. Here's like um, anything that you used from like right because we had like y equals mx plus b was like all of 133. So like you would have a y, like that was the data you collected, and x was more data you collected, and then like the slope was some kind of important physics quantity. So like talking about that, like how you did that here. um, yeah, like your plotting tools. I don't know how relevant this will be for electricity and magnetism. um, I don't know. Yeah, totally. I'll definitely go over office hours. Like some people would like there's an option in Overleaf, which is like the site that hosts this like um, online LaTeX. You can like download a LaTeX compiler to your computer, but it's really annoying. Um, so yeah, I just use this online one, and it's really nice that you can share with other people. So like I can share a project with you guys, and that's what I'll do. But what people would do in office hours, like if they were trying to learn LaTeX or something, they would like share it with me, and then I can like show them like they would have an error. Like if you write something incorrectly in LaTeX, it'll come up with an error when you try to compile it as a PDF, and then like I would go through it with them and you know fix it because like if you share it's kind of like a Google Doc in that sense. When you share it, like you can see me typing on it, so that's really helpful. I didn't want to post the this like example just because like it's an actual person who did it last semester and not me, so it's not my work. Like you can notice I like blacked out their name and everything, and I just didn't want to like put it out there into the ethernet, or ether web or whatever that word is. Yeah, so I just wanted to use it as like something to go side by side with my rubric as I was talking. But yeah, I won't put it on Blackboard just because I didn't want like it to get around. And I didn't ask the person explicitly. I just said if I can use it during Zoom. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, I will stop recording. And then about how long should the report be? It depends on your formatting. Like using LaTeX, uh, it formats things like very, yeah, the recording will go, I'll post it in an announcement as soon as it goes to the cloud. Um, it depends on what like system you're using. If you're using Word, it's much more cramped, which is why I prefer it to be like spaced out, and like equations should be on their own line, and like figures should have like stuff like that. Um, oh, I have no idea how long it would take. I'm not a good like I struggle a lot with doing things on time. not on time, like doing things in a timely manner. So yeah, I'm not the person to ask. Like writing a lab report would take me an insane amount of time. It's bonkers that you guys have to do this every week. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not good at answering that one. But in lengthwise, like it totally depends on your formatting. I prefer if it's like lots of spacing and like, um, I mean, not between like if it's just English, but like every time you have an equation or um, like your plots and figures and tables and stuff like that, like just space it out. Um, I guess maybe what I could do is like, I don't think I can do that. I was gonna say like, yeah, I don't have any preference on like double spaced or anything like that. Just like um, more more spaced out than not. Like I'm not like advocating like spacing out like in any strict sense. Just um, not cluttered. Like if it's um, like a paragraph um, smushed into and there are like multiple equations in the paragraph, like it's just hard. It's easier for me to grade. No, I don't care what font it's in. Um, like it's easier for me to grade. That's the bottom line when it's like spaced out more. Like you won't get points off if it's cramped. I'll just be sad. So, yeah, Cosmic Sands, good one. Yes, totally. That I can do. That, and I did do that last semester. Like after the first, and I tried to give as detailed as possible grading. Like I don't like every single grade I've gotten so far from my TAs is like, like 8 out of 10. Like no words or anything. Like I try to be super detailed. Uh, with like my grading, and like I pretty much what I do is like I copy and paste my rubric and just take out all the words, like so it's, and then I'll like give comments in this section and give comments in this section and like stuff like that. So you like after the first lab you'll have a pretty good idea of like what's good and what's bad and stuff. But yeah, after the first lab I'll definitely reach out to whoever wrote really good ones and be like, hey, can I use this? And then I'll do the same thing where I um, like black out the name and like show people it. And that like I'll ask questions like, hey, can I post this to uh, the Blackboard or whatever? Um, yes, I try to do that. I try to get things done every week. Um, the first, like this week and next week will be very hard for me. I have the PhD qualifying exams um, on top of homework because they don't care. So like I will try to get the first lab back to you before the second. Um, but I also like that first lab feedback is going to be hard for me to balance because I want to give you a ton of feedback on the first one, like I did in 133, but I also um, don't have time to do that. So, then I want to get it to you just something before the next lab. So I'm going to try to balance that. But yeah, barring like the next 2 weeks of my life, yes, you will have like the lab. I try to do it weekly, so that you have like last week's before you write this week's. Okay, I will stop the recording, and I think it takes like